Hello, gentle dreamer. Tonight's story is about a very special pillow, one that was more than just soft, because inside it bloomed a garden made just for dreams. In a quiet little bedroom, on a small bed near the window, lay a pillow. It was pale blue with tiny white stars stitched into its corners, and it always stayed cool on one side, the perfect kind of pillow for drifting into dreams. But this pillow, unlike any other, had something hidden deep inside its fluff and thread, a secret garden. No one could see it. No one could touch it, but the moment a child laid their head down and closed their eyes, the garden would bloom. The garden inside the pillow didn't have normal flowers or buzzing bees. It had glowing dandelions that floated like wishes, trees that hummed lullabies, and ponds where the water sang softly when the wind blew. It only grew when the sleeper was still, and it changed each night, blooming differently depending on the dreams. For a girl named Amira, the garden grew tall sunflowers that told gentle stories with their petals. For her little brother, Milo, it was filled with soft moss where toy animals came to life and cuddled around him. The pillow garden was never the same twice. Sometimes there were fireflies that giggled when touched. Sometimes the moon dipped low and left a silver path through the trees. And sometimes the child would walk through the garden in their dreams, barefoot and smiling, gathering flowers made of kindness and hope. No loud noises, no chasing, just calm, just wonder. By morning, the garden would quietly fade, folding itself back into the pillow's softness, waiting again for nightfall. The child would wake feeling rested, safe, and somehow happy. Even if they didn't remember the dream, their heart did. And the pillow, always quiet, always still, held their garden safe until the next night. So tonight, when you rest your head, remember this. Inside your pillow, a garden may be waiting. All it needs is your dream to begin. Good night.
Hello, little one. Tonight's story is about a single yawn, so gentle, so quiet, that it floated through the sky and helped the whole world fall asleep. In a quiet cottage near the edge of a sleepy forest, a girl named Mila let out a long, slow yawn. She had brushed her teeth, hugged her favorite stuffed bear, and climbed under her blanket. Then, with her eyes half closed, she yawned. So the softest, sleepiest yawn you've ever heard. But this was no ordinary yawn. This yawn was made of calm. It was light as a feather and warm as cocoa. It slipped out of Mila's mouth and drifted up and out through the window into the starry sky. The yawn floated gently, like a bubble made of dreams. First, it passed a barn where baby animals were rustling in the hay. As the yawn floated by, the lambs and calves blinked slowly and lay down to sleep. Then the yawn passed over a playground where the wind was still swinging one lonely swing. The swing slowed, then stopped. The whole park took a breath. The yawn kept going. It floated across cities and rooftops, over forests and fields. Wherever it went, lights dimmed, voices softened, and sleepy eyes blinked just one last time before closing. Far away, in a treehouse on a mountain, a boy looked up at the sky. He felt the yawn pass over him like a warm breeze that whispered, "Shh." He yawned back, then snuggled into his sleeping bag and drifted off. Even the moon, watching from above, blinked a little slower. The stars twinkled gently, like they were sighing with relief. The yawn traveled all night, touching every corner of the world. And when it finally floated back to Mila's window, it curled into a small invisible loop and wrapped around her head like a lullaby scarf. She smiled in her sleep, never knowing that her tiny yawn had tucked the whole world in. So tonight, if you feel a yawn coming on, don't hold it back. Let it float. You never know who it might help sleep next. Good night.
The stars are twinkling quietly, and the night is ready to carry you far away. Let your eyes grow heavy and listen to a gentle tale about a dream that found the softest way to travel. Once, in a room filled with soft blankets and sleepy toys, a small dream waited. It didn't know what it would become: a flying horse, a candy forest, a talking whale. It just knew one thing. It wanted to find the right child to visit. But dreams are light, so light that they can't walk or run or fly. So the little dream waited until, through the window, floated a tiny white feather. It swirled and spun in the air, glowing just a little in the moonlight. The dream reached out and hopped aboard, nestling right into the curve of the feather. Together, they drifted through the night, past rooftops and wind chimes, over sleeping cats and quiet gardens. The dream whispered stories to the feather, and the feather carried it faster and farther, with no sound at all. Down below, in a cozy room, a child named Mira turned in her sleep. She was almost dreaming, but not quite. The feather dipped low, danced through the crack of her window, and gently landed on her pillow. As it touched the fabric, the dream leapt off, right into Mira's thoughts. That night, Mira dreamed of a flying horse who sang lullabies, a forest made of soft cotton candy, and a whale who told stories about the stars. All thanks to a feather and a dream that waited for the right moment. Maybe tonight a feather is drifting your way too, carrying a soft, special dream that's just for you. Close your eyes now and let it land gently. Good night, little dreamer.
Hello, little listener. Tonight's story is about a tiny cloud, soft and shy, who floated high above the world, but didn't want to rain because it loved watching the dreams below. High up in the sky, Far above the rooftops and trees floated a cloud named Nilo. Nilo was the smallest cloud in the sky, puffy and white, like a scoop of sleepy whipped cream. All the other clouds had jobs. Some made shade, some brought snow, and others, the big gray ones, rumbled with thunder and let the rain fall. But Nilo didn't want to rain, not even a drop. When the wind asked why, Nilo said, "I don't want to wake the dreamers below. I like watching them sleep." Because each night, as the stars came out and the towns grew still, Nilo would float low and gentle, peeking through windows and garden trees. He'd see children curled up under blankets, stuffed animals tucked under arms, eyes fluttering as dreams began to bloom. Sometimes he saw giggles in their sleep, other times soft sighs. Once, a little boy whispered, "Hello, cloud," and Nilo felt his heart grow fluffy with joy. The other clouds didn't understand. "Rain is important," they said. "It helps flowers grow." But Nilo believed dreams help little hearts grow too. So instead of raining, Nilo learned to do something else. He gently drizzled dream mist. Not wet, not cold, just a touch of sparkle in the air to make dreams sweeter. It felt like a kiss from the sky. And soon, the flowers still grew. The dreams grew too. And the other clouds began to smile at Nilo when they passed. They didn't try to change him anymore. Because sometimes, being soft is the strongest thing you can be. Tonight, if your window feels a little cooler, a little softer, maybe Nilo is floating by, watching over your dream and wishing you good night. Hello, quiet sailor. Tonight's story is about a tiny boat that didn't float on water, but waited patiently by your bed, ready to carry you across the seas of dreams. Every night, when the lights were turned off and the house became still, a little wooden boat sat quietly by the side of the bed. It was no bigger than a shoe, but it wasn't just a toy. It was the dreamboat, made of gentle wood with a sail stitched from soft pillow thread. It waited, not for wind, not for waves, but for one thing only, for a child to close their eyes. You see, this boat didn't sail oceans, it sailed dreams. Each time a sleepy head sank into the pillow, the dreamboat would gently rise, growing just big enough for a sleepy passenger to climb aboard without ever waking up. The boat always knew where to go. Some nights, it sailed through a sea of stars where whales swam slowly through stardust. Other nights, it followed a river of silver light that wound through floating islands made of clouds. It passed glowing jellyfish that whispered good night. It drifted near floating lanterns that hummed lullabies. It never rocked too much. It never lost its way. The dreamboat listened to the dreams and guided them gently, away from worries, away from noise, straight into the calm. And when the sun began to peek over the edge of morning, the boat would float silently back, shrinking, softening, curling back into the space beside the bed, waiting for the next night, the next dreamer, the next quiet journey. Tonight, as you lay still, listen for the soft creak of a tiny wooden sail. The dreamboat is ready, Close your eyes. Your journey awaits. Good night.
Hello, Starlight Sleeper. Tonight's story is about a star. Not one that stayed high above, but one that fell gently into the pocket of a curious little explorer. One evening, just after the sky had turned deep purple, a boy named Theo stood outside in his pajamas, staring at the stars. He loved looking up. He always wondered what it would be like to catch a star and keep it close. That night, as he reached out with a sleepy smile, something tiny and glowing blinked, then drifted down. It floated like a feather, shimmering softly, and landed plop right into the front pocket of Theo's pajama top. It was a baby star, not hot, not bright, just warm and gentle, like a hug made of light. Theo, you're real? The star blinked once, then curled up inside his pocket like it belonged there all along. Theo ran inside and climbed into bed, holding his hand over the little glow in his shirt. That night, something magical happened. As soon as he closed his eyes, the star began to hum, a low, steady tune that only dreams could hear. Suddenly, Theo found himself walking across a sky bridge made of silver string. The star peeked out of his pocket, lighting the way. The star pridged down from Severe, Theo phasing high rest a long life. They floated past sleepy moons reading books. They phased tiptoed along Saturn's rings like a tightrope. They played hopscotch between sleepy constellations. The star never spoke, but Theo always knew where to go. When he grew tired, he lay down on a puff of night cloud, and the star nestled beside him, glowing just enough to make him feel safe. By morning, the star had grown dim, not gone, just resting. Theo gently lifted it from his pocket and placed it on his windowsill. It blinked once, then floated back up into the sky. He waved and "Thank you! Come back any time!" And from that day on, Theo checked his pocket every night, just in case. Tonight, before you close your eyes, check your pocket. There might be a sleepy little star waiting to guide your dreams. Good night. Hi, sleepy friend. Have you ever wondered what a storybook does when everyone is asleep? Tonight you'll find out, because this is the tale of a book that didn't wait for someone to read it. It read itself. On a wooden shelf in a quiet library sat a small red book. Its pages were worn and soft from many tiny hands, and its cover had a little gold star in the corner. But no one had opened it in a very long time. Children didn't visit much anymore, and even the librarian sometimes forgot it was there. But this book wasn't lonely, because every night, when the lights went out, it did something magical. It opened itself. Gently, one page at a time, it let out a warm whisper, not loud, not scary, just soft words floating into the dark. The book read fairy tales to the chairs, adventures to the pencils, and lullabies to the dust floating through the air. Its favorite story was about a bear who painted the moon. One night, a little girl named Nia got lost in the library. She had fallen asleep while reading and woke up in the dark. She was scared at first, until she heard a soft voice, not her own, not anyone else's, but the sound of the book, reading itself aloud. She followed the sound through the shelves until she found it, open, glowing faintly. She sat down beside it, hugged her knees, and listened. The book didn't stop. It told stories until Nia's eyes closed again, and she drifted off, surrounded by stories, held by the warm hum of imagination. Some stories are too patient to stay silent. Maybe tonight, as you sleep, one will read itself just for you. Good night, little listener.
Hello, Starry Snuggler. Tonight's story is about a pair of pajamas that didn't just keep a child warm. They lit up gently in the dark and carried them into the softest dreams. In a little dresser, folded neatly between cozy shirts and socks, lay a pair of very special pajamas. They looked like ordinary sleepwear, dark blue with tiny silver dots. But when the lights turned off and the room grew still, something magical happened. The silver dots began to sparkle. Not like glitter, not like fireflies, but soft, slow flickers like stars sighing in the dark. A child named Juna discovered them one chilly evening. She pulled them on and they felt just right, warm at the toes, soft at the collar, and light as a whisper. As she lay down, her covers tucked around her, the pajamas began to shimmer. And then the stars on her pajamas slowly lifted, floating like glowing dust. Juna felt her body relax, and suddenly she was drifting. The pajamas weren't just clothes, they were a ship, a starship. She sailed through skies made of velvet, past sleepy clouds and blinking planets. Comets waved hello, and shooting stars twirled in slow, dreamy circles. Her ship made no sound, only a faint hum, like a lullaby wrapped in moonlight. Juna didn't steer. The pajamas knew the way. They carried her to places no one else had ever dreamed, gardens of quiet giggles, lakes of shimmering light, and floating beds of cloud-soft pillows. And when her dream was done, the pajamas gently brought her back to bed, just in time for the morning light to peek through the window. The sparkles faded, but Juna always woke up with the feeling that something magical had happened. And each night, when she put on her starry pajamas, she smiled, ready to fly again. Tonight, when you slip into bed, imagine your pajamas glowing quietly, ready to carry you somewhere beautiful. Good night.
Joyful dreamer? Tonight's story is about a tiny cloud, not one full of rain, but one that floated around collecting the happiest sound in the world, giggles. Way up in the sky, between the fluffy white clouds and the soft blue above, lived a small silvery puff named Pippa. Pippa wasn't a rain cloud. She didn't rumble or storm. She didn't make snow or thunder. She had one very special job. She collected giggles. You see, when children laughed, really laughed, the kind that made their bellies shake and their eyes squint, those little giggles would float up into the air like bubbles. Most of them vanished into the sky, but some were caught by Pippa. She floated from town to town, village to village, playground to playground, listening carefully. When a baby squealed with delight, Pippa caught it. When a toddler laughed at a silly face, Pippa held it close. When two siblings burst out laughing after a tickle fight, Pippa nearly burst with joy. She didn't store them in a jar or a box. No, Pippa kept them in her fluff. That's why she sparkled just a little more than the other clouds, and why, when she floated by, people felt a sudden urge to smile, even if they didn't know why. But Pippa had a secret. At night, after collecting giggles all day, she would drift slowly over sleepy towns and let the giggles go very softly, very gently. They didn't sound loud anymore. At night, they became tiny puffs of joy in dreams. A giggle might become a floating balloon in a toddler's sleep, or a silly dancing animal in someone else's dream. Sometimes it just made dreamers smile in their sleep without knowing why. One evening, a boy named Sammy whispered to his mom, "I dreamed that a cloud was tickling me." And she smiled, not knowing that Pippa had been nearby. And so, each night, Pippa rained laughter into dreams. Not too much, just enough to remind every sleepy child that the world was still full of happy things. So, tonight, if you smile in your sleep or giggle just a little as you dream, it might be Pippa, the cloud, gently letting a giggle fall your way. Good night. Hello, sweet dream sailor. Tonight's story is about a very special bed. One that didn't just stay still, but rocked gently like a boat on a quiet sea. In a quiet attic room, under a slanted ceiling and a window full of stars, there lived a small bed made of smooth wood and soft blankets. The bed belonged to a boy named Jonas. It looked ordinary by day, neatly made, pillows fluffed, covers tucked in, but at night, when the stars peeked in and the wind slowed to a hush, the bed would shift, just a little. It would sway gently from side to side, like a tiny boat floating on invisible waves. The first time it happened, Jonas thought he was dreaming. He felt the sway, the soft creak of the wooden frame, and the quiet hum of movement. He opened one eye, then the other. The room was still, but his bed was rocking, reassuringly. Not fast, not scary, just slow, like someone was holding it with careful hands. Jonas smiled and pulled the blanket tighter around his shoulders. Each night after that, the bed would rock again, and soon it became their bedtime rhythm. As Jonas closed his eyes, the bed would begin to float, up, up, just a little, carried by calm and quiet. Out the window, the stars would blink slowly. Below, the floor would vanish into a soft sea of dreams. The bed never left the room, but in Jonas's mind, it sailed across dream oceans, past glowing islands made of pillows, under skies where whales sang lullabies, through waters filled with sleepy jellyfish and yawning dolphins. And every time the bed rocked, Jonas drifted deeper, safe and warm, like being held by the sea itself. By morning, the bed rested quietly on the floor again, just as before. But Jonas knew the truth. His bed was more than furniture. It was a boat, a cradle, a dream vessel. And each night, it would wait quietly until he was ready to sail again. Close your eyes now, little traveler. Let your bed rock you softly tonight, not across the room, but across the stars. Good night.